And a lot of bags of soil say they have biology in it, but studies have shown that most of it has died by the time you buy it.
Really?
There's one soil out there that figured that out eventually, and they've added some things to keep it alive for a longer period of time. So good fertilizers have biology in it, and soils adds a bit much of its size by the time you buy. Anyone? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'm kind of lost here. I mean, this test, how much water to soil?
Just a small cup.
Is it like
And
1
just
to
a-
1?
No, no,
Like this-
just take a cup about that big, and just put about that much dry soil in it. And then let it sit there for 20 minutes and see how it layers out. Sand on the bottom, silt, clay, and then organic matter floats.
I was told to shake that and then set it down
Yeah,
for
you
a
can
day.
shake it beforehand. Absolutely, that's always good. I just had something I was going to say about soil, but I forgot. But earthworms. Earthworms are the greatest things. But where do earthworms come from? Anyone know? I mean, it's amazing. If you just dig a hole in the most dead part of your yard of soil and throw some lettuce leaves or just kitchen scraps in there, then earthworms will show up. I did that experiment, and I lived in St. George, Utah, which is a desert, and I have a dead yard up there, and I dug a hole and put some stuff there, and earthworms show up, and so the earthworm fairy brings earthworms. So, I figure it's probably on the plant somewhere, but earthworms show up. So, anyway, sorry, do you have a question over there?
Well, how did it come over there?
I have no idea, and I've asked actually people with PhDs, and they told me the earthworm fairies. So, I don't know.
So they really don't know. So it
They
could be
probably
some
do.
flying
Someone knows. I just
insect
didn't ask the right person.
doing something with the worm.
Yeah. They're probably dormant in there. For example, the average acre of land has 200 million weed seeds on it. No, 2 million. Sorry, 200 million biology. So 2 million weed seeds. So people say, how do I do to get rid of my weeds? There's nothing you can ever do to get rid of your weeds. They're always going to come up. And because you have 2 million, so figure out how big your land lot is, and you probably have a few 100,000, And then that doesn't count the birds that drop them on and that kind of stuff. So if you fix the soil, then everything else works right. If you don't fix the soil, it doesn't work right. So basically you want to make the soil alive, and you make the soil alive by adding organic matter, and that brings in, organic matter itself also will bring in the biology and that kind of thing. So always good to add some though. Any questions on soil?
Yeah, are you going to teach us more about how to make the right soil?
Yeah, a little bit. We'll
And
get
later
to
down?
these are
Okay.
things. Because basically, I've always said that compost, and I didn't put these in any particular order, but compost will fix any soil problem except solid rock. So if your soil is too alkalinity or too acidy, soil will lower it or raise it depending on what it needs. It will eliminate the salt problem eventually, although generally rain will eliminate that too. So yeah, we'll talk about that as well.
Can you put like orange peels and banana peels and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I was
Really? Wow.
I was going to. I thought about this, but I thought that'd be too much work. We have 2 buckets on our counter, and one is overflowing now because I haven't got to it, full of kitchen scraps, eggshells, banana peels, lettuce, whatever. And I actually throw it all in my blender and blend it up, and then I'd go out and dig a hole and just put it in there because it breaks it down faster. So
With water?
yeah, sorry, I blend it with water.
And
then I just go dig a hole and pour it down. And that just makes it work a lot faster. And so
So you don't have a compost bin and the whole thing?
I actually do. I also do vermiculture, and I also have a little compost pile.
I'm sorry, I came in a little late.
You did, so tough
Yeah,
luck.
and I was running, so I smell, so stay with me. But maybe you answered this. Won't compost attract rats or varmints or?
It can, yeah.
I don't want that in my compost.
What's that?
I don't want that in my compost.
Well, that's one reason why I like cold composting, where I just blend it up, and I dig a hole, put it down, cover it, and it doesn't attract any rats or mice or varmints or those kind of things. But if you have a properly maintained compost pile, it really doesn't attract, because it doesn't stink. It's only the ones that are out of balance. So, for example, I do regular compost, I do cold composting, and I do vermiculture, which is composting with earthworms. And so, sometimes my earthworm one gets out of balance. And the big thing with compost, if you compost, though, you need what they call a carbon to nitrogen ratio, which is basically 3 parts of carbon, which is dry, 1 part green. And that's what you want. So, for example, if your grass clippings are dry, then that's considered carbon. And if fresh grass clippings are considered nitrogen. So basically you want a 3-to-1 ratio if you're just doing a compost pile. And for example, grass clippings, just to leave them in your lawn if you have extra. Just take them, if you have a hill or a bank or somewhere, just spread them over the garden, and they decompose real quick, and you won't have a rodent problem with that. And there's, you know, if you have a lot of trees or something, I tried this, but I ran out of space, but you can layer the branches, and that actually brings wildlife in, but some good wildlife, some bad, so, you know, it's always risky, but usually you get good wildlife along with some bad. You know, in the houses we have today, I don't know if you guys live in development like I do, but we have those pipes that come under the sidewalks and go to the backyard for drainage. The rodents love those things. Those are super highways for rodents. So if you have those, just get some rodent bait and drop it in the tunnels. And then once a year you can wash out a few dead rodents. So, anyway. So all right. Fertilizers. Anyone see what a bag of fertilizer? There's 3 numbers on a bag of fertilizer. Does anyone know what they are?
Nitrogen, phosphorus.
NPK, which stands for nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And nitrogen is the most important nutrient. Phosphorus and potassium are the second most. And there's, depends on who you talk to, there's between 13 and 17 essential nutrients. Really, I think there's 13, and the other 4 or 5 are beneficial, but they're not essential. The plant will live without them, but they might not fulfill their top function. Anyone name all 13? I don't even think I could. Actually, I probably could, but I actually wrote them down so I could cheat if I needed to. But I'll read them here for you. Okay, so we got nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur, iron, copper, manganese, zinc, boron, molybdenum, that's a tongue twister, and chlorine. And then the others that some people say are, aren't really, are sodium, cobalt, vanillin, I don't know what that one is, nickel, selenium, aluminum and silicon. Sorry, I can't talk very well tonight, but those are the essential nutrients. And one thing when you fertilize, anyone here use Miracle-Gro?
Used to.
Yeah, Miracle-Gro, when I got my degree in horticulture, we call that cocaine for plants. and also, basically, all fertilizers are salts. And are salts good for plants?
No.
They're not. That's right, very bad. And also they're very bad for the environment. In fact, where do most of our vegetables come from, like, for example, our carrots? Out east of here, right, in the Imperial Desert. And every year they have to flush the salts out of the soil because the water that they get is so salt-laden, so they flush it with salt-laden water. But they flush enough salt out of the soil or below the root zone so they can grow a crop. And in a few years, that soil out there will be dead, probably another 10, 20 years. They won't be able to grow anything. So every time you know, you're adding that, you're adding to the problem. Because most of the Miracle-Gro just flushes out of the root zone. It's water soluble. It goes out of the root zone into the groundwater and then causes pollution. Also, too, oftentimes in fertilizers you see numbers that are just ridiculous. For example, you see something like one of the very popular fertilizers is a 15, 15, 15, or triple 16, one of those. And plants can't use anything more than a 5 at most. So you're basically, it's like you're feeding your kids 8 times a day, you know. You don't, and most of that fertilizer, since it's synthetic, it's a salt, it just washes out of the root zone. I'm a big proponent of organic fertilizers, but organic fertilizers make a lot of sense because we talked about there's 13 essential nutrients, right? Most of your fertilizers have the 3 main ones, the N, P, and K, and then they have a few of the others. And you know, most soil has most of the micronutrients. Basically, the nutrients are broken up into 3 different categories. There's the primary nutrients, the secondary nutrients, which are calcium, manganese, and sulfur, and then the micronutrients. And most soils have micronutrients, some don't. So if you give your plants an organic fertilizer, a good organic fertilizer, it will have all the micronutrients in there, most of them. So it makes a lot of sense. Also, the organic fertilizers do not leach out of the soil. They stay in the soil. So that way you get in 100%. So oftentimes people will say, well, I don't want an organic because an organic has numbers like that, 3, 2, 1. I don't know if you can read that. I don't need to write that, but I feel better if I write it. So, but yeah, 3, 2, 1. But basically, when you realize that 80% of the 15, 15, 15 or more leaches out of the root zone within a day of using it, and these 90+% of these stick in the soil, you can actually, you know, multiply these by 3 and 4, and reduce these by 9, And so this is actually a more potent fertilizer because it stays there. Now, there's something very important to know. Synthetic fertilizers like Miracle-Gro or Peters or whatever, they feed the plant instantly. It's like mainlining the plant, all right? Where all your organic fertilizers feed the soil, and the soil feeds the plant, and that's the way it's intended to be.